All right, forging ahead. Hopefully we're back live. If you missed the preamble, we've done this before. I think you know the drill. My name is Michele Owen. I'm the Director of Communications. The Communications Department at the City of Muncie is trying out a couple of new initiatives. The Dream with Dan forums is nothing new. We've been doing that for quite a while, but we're really trying to engage with the community and make sure that people are here in person so you can ask your questions. We've also begun posting our press releases on the City of Muncie page, so just in case those aren't picked up by the news station that you follow, you can always see the press releases that the city puts out so that you can stay up to date on information. My goal with the communications department is to make sure that communication is a two-way street. So I want to rebuild trust that if you reach out to us, if you post something on our page, if you call, if you email, we are going to be there and someone is going to respond to you to the best of our ability. So if you've ever interacted on our Facebook page, I appreciate everybody who is active and comments. Thank you for engaging in those good faith discussions. That's a really important part of hearing what our citizen concerns are so that we can get those to the appropriate departments and make sure that everyone has a voice in our city. We also try to make sure that everyone knows about opportunities to serve on boards or apply for committees, because if you are an engaged citizen and you really want to make sure that your voice is heard and that you get a say in the decisions that matter, applying for public service is one of the best ways to do that. So not a lot of updates on the communications department, but hopefully if I'm doing my job right, you're hearing from us plenty. So always drop by the page or shoot me an email and I will do my best to make sure that we get your questions answered. We're going to keep the department head sections a little bit short today so that we can get to our main discussion of this evening, which is new initiatives with the Muncie Police Department. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the microphone to Mayor Dan Ridenour for our city update.
I'm glad I don't have to stand. So a couple of things I want to just discuss today. We recently received a bond, and that bond is allowing us to upgrade some additional parks. So there are some parks that have some neglect over the years, and there are some parks that we're wanting to completely transform. So I'm just going to read off some of these different parks, and we're working with some of the neighborhoods. Some are already in the works. We already know what the neighborhoods want, and they were more financial cost overruns. And so Morningside, we're going to be able to finish up the work that we had talked about over there. Thank you, Roger, for helping us on that particular one. We're looking at doing some repairs to Tui Pool. Primarily Tui Pool. There's Tui Parks, the whole thing there, but primarily the pool has some needs. The slide is more than a decade, close to 15 years old, needs some repairs, and we're intending to do that with some of the money that's coming from that. We also have some money earmarked for the skate park. When I call it the skate park, it's actually West Side Park. But there's a section of West Side Park that has not been utilized. At one time, there were three circles, small, medium, and large, for model airplanes. That has not been used for some time, so we just found out if that was something that we could take advantage of. The group said, yes, we do everything over at AMA now. So we're going to take that section and turn that into a skate park. So we've put aside some funds for that. There's still some funds to be raised, so if you're wanting to help them finish out the money to get the park started, as far as construction, please reach out. The councilperson, Rose Selvey, is the one who is handling that fundraising, so reach out to her. We have already done, and we've already paid some invoices for the engineering that's being done on that park, but that'll be at West Side Park. That should be a great location for us. It'll have a lot of visibility too, because it'll be at the corner of White River Boulevard and Tillotson, so that'll have a lot of visibility. There are also some repairs that we want to do at Ballcourt Park on the south side. It's mostly with landscaping, so we've earmarked some monies to make sure that that soccer program for the kids is still very effective, and so we've got some money going toward that. We have some funds available for Heacon Park. That neighborhood is still deciding what they want to do. They've gone back and forth, but the money's there, so once they decide, we'll get things ordered and get it going. Coing Park, on the north side, there's some adjustments we want to do and some improvements, primarily with the pickleball court, but some other little things that they'd like to do. And so we worked with the council person on that one. And Jack's Park. Jack's Park is one that doesn't have a lot of easy access. There's a dead end street, so you can't get to it from the south very easily. But it's great walking distance from one of our neighborhoods, and you can drive to it from Tillotson. But it's a little challenged area as far as geographically. But we're looking at taking out the old playground. Some of that playground equipment is probably 5 decades old. So we're looking at improving that and making sure that that park gets a nice spring cleaning, so to speak. And we don't have a full plan on that. We've got the neighborhood group is already starting to meet on that. So as that moves forward, we'll let the neighborhood help us select what goes on there. Halteman Park we have ordered a pickleball court. That was what their request was. So they're going to have pickleball. I will admit pickleball is not something that I have personally played, but it is very popular, and I'm seeing more and more about it in a lot of areas. But that should be delivered in November and start the installation sometime late October or November. It's already ordered. And then Anthony Northside neighborhood is one that we had attempted to try and put in a park. But the only place we could find, it's really a challenged area. Unfortunately, it's near McGalliard, which is the most expensive properties in town, so we've had difficulty finding a price that we could work with. We had a church that was interested in doing it. We took it to the neighborhood. They weren't really interested in putting the park on the church. We were going to lease the ground. But they decided not to move forward with that. But we have talked with Ball State University, and at the Anthony Administration Building on Oakwood, there's already a playground where the elementary school used to be. And it has a couple pieces of playground equipment, has a parking lot, has some other amenities around it. So they have agreed. We're in the process of putting together a memorandum of understanding. Once we get that put together, then we intend to purchase some additional playground equipment to put in there. We'll get the guidance of that Anthony Northside neighborhood on what they want in there, along with the swing set and the slides and other things that are already at that park. So those are the 9 parks that we're starting with. Some other park upgrades that I just want to update everyone on is Riverview Park. That is one off of the White River Greenway, Bunch Boulevard. That one we had to stop temporarily because it's in a flood zone and part of the Army Corps of Engineers guidelines, so we had to get permitting before we could move anything forward with that. So we already had the equipment ordered, but we now have the installation ordered, and they should be putting that splash pad in sometime in the next 4 weeks. We hope there's a little bit of October summer weather that kids can take advantage of it, but that's the way timing works. And we were not allowed to do anything underground in that park according to the requirements of the entities above us at the state and federal level, so we were not able to put anything else in. They did allow us to take the old playground equipment out, which was also probably 5 decades old, but we weren't allowed to put anything else in. So the playground equipment is ordered. Supply chain has that coming in, they said, in what amounts to about 18 weeks. So it's about a half a year. Is what we've been waiting, but it'll be coming in. We'll get it in the spring. But that one, we're looking forward to getting that splash pad opened. Till Pond is another one. That's what we affectionately call it. I don't know what the park will be called when it's finished. but it's at the corner of Tillotson and Memorial, and it's on a 6.5-acre pond. And we have 13.5 acres. We're really not looking for playground equipment on this one. This is to be an urban fishing area, free fishing area. So we're looking forward to that. And it's of a size that the DNR has said that they will stock it. So we're working with the DNR to make that happen, including submitting for a grant. We'll see. We don't have it yet. We hope to get it. And then McCullough Park, we just completed a $1.5 million expansion to what is now known as Gamebridge Field. And Cal Ripken Jr. was here for that. It was put together with the collaboration of the Cal Ripken Senior Foundation, Gamebridge, Ball State University, the City of Muncie, and we're real excited about that. And the first games will be upcoming, so we're real happy for that. And Deputy Mayor Richard Ivey was the project lead on making that all work together. There were a lot of entities involved, and that we feel like that's a very successful thing. A couple other things that are going on, and then I'll pass the microphone back to Michele. The Store Estates addition and Store Woods Park is under construction. If you drive in that area, this was the former Store Elementary School, which we tore down and turning into 34-lot subdivision and a neighborhood park. You can see the streets now. They're not paved, but you can see them cut out. They had some challenges early on. There's been a lot of flooding in that neighborhood. And so there were some challenges early on. They had done some work and then discovered some additional flooding issues. And so they had to go back and do the work again and had flooding issues. And finally were able to solve those. So we're hopeful that that helps the north side of that particular area and the Johnson Circle area quite a bit with the flooding when those get in. And then also White River Plaza, which is not very far from here, is also undergoing some revitalization. So I know he's already started. You can see it. He's already started working on the roof. We're really excited about that. It's something that has not been on the tax rolls because it's been owned by a not-for-profit, and we're excited that it's now on the tax rolls with a local guy who owns several properties and businesses in the area and has a commitment to the area. So we're excited about that. White River Lofts downtown. I guess I'm going a little longer than I expected. White River Lofts downtown, we did get the bids in for the demolition work, so that Canal Square, that little shopping center that's been empty now for several months since we asked the tenants to leave, that is going to be demolished here very, very shortly. So the bids were presented this past Wednesday. They will accept one next week, and that will get that particular building down. Markets on Madison, which is the old Southway Plaza, received word last night, actually, that they're moving forward. Brick Red System is moving forward with the hiring of 30 IT jobs. So they're moving forward with that earlier than we expected. Which is a positive thing. They're good-paying jobs, and we're excited about that for what it means for the South Side, for what it means for Southway Plaza, and what it means for that company out of Seattle, Washington that has come to Muncie to expand their operations. So those are some of the things going on, and I will turn this back over to Michele.
There's always so much going on in Muncie. Well, we'll go ahead and move over to the police department. We do have a special guest. Flock Safety is here to also share some information about a new initiative that the Muncie Police Department is adopting this year, but I believe Officer Deegan has some department updates. Is that correct?
For those that don't know me, I'm Chris Deegan. I work for the Muncie Police Department. Oh, thank you. I'm probably loud enough. I don't need it, but I'll take it anyway. I wanted to talk about some hiring initiatives that have been in place now for a while. We saw some staffing and recruitment and retention challenges over the last couple of years surrounding law enforcement, and that's not a Muncie-specific problem. That is a nationwide law enforcement problem that we've seen So together with the mayor's office, the local police union, and the Muncie Police Merit Commission, we put together some initiatives that we think are helping us tremendously as far as our recruitment and our staffing is concerned. We've partnered with a company called Interview Now, which has helped us disseminate all of the material that we need to promote hiring processes that we have been conducting. Typically, in years past, the police department's only conducted one hiring process a year and maintained a list. We were seeing such a reduction in application numbers that we decided we needed to do something a little different, which is what led us down this path. I'm happy to report that with that, we have a process that's ongoing right now, and we're accepting applications until September 9th is the application deadline, and we are well in excess of what we finished with last time. We finished with only 10 applications. The last hiring process that we had announced for about 3 months, for about a 3-month window. We're in that third month now of this window, and we are in communication with over 75 candidates, and we have a new online application process where they can start the application, they can save it, they can come back to it, and do everything digitally as we move towards that and away from paper applications. And we're up over 40 applications now on the website. So we expect a pretty big push to close that process out. Part of the initiatives also included implementing a lateral hiring process where we seek certified police officers for the Muncie Police Department that have already been accredited through the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy and are working for other agencies. To date, we've hired 6. That's a pretty big number for us. We had 3 last year as we started the program last year, and it's kind of taken off and gone now this year. We're up to 6. I would anticipate maybe 2 to 3 more before the end of the year. So that has definitely helped us with our staffing numbers. We are up to 104 on our staffing count, which is the highest that we've been in probably, 4 or 5 years maybe. It's been quite a while. So the recruitment efforts, like I said, are definitely on the upswing. This new company that we're using, like I said, we partnered with the local police union, the mayor's office, and the merit commission has been a big help to us. And I actually brought some flyers that I'll leave if anybody wants to grab any, and maybe I can convince our media friends in the back here to post this for us. It's got a QR code on here you can go on to and scan and apply for the police department if you're interested for a job. We're always taking applications. So that's centered around the staffing updates for us. A couple other things that we've got going on as far as the police department is concerned. We've been working in close partnership with IU Health in the development of a community crisis center that looks to probably take ground and footing probably sometime next year. We're just hopeful that this will be a area that we can take people that are in crisis to, and they can receive the proper social services and help that they need. A lot of times we are the first people that respond to people that are in crisis, and we want to have another resource available to us as the local police department and to other first responders as well to be able to take people into the community where they can get the resources that they need. So more to follow on that. Other than that, we're in a pretty good place right now from the police department, and I don't want to take up too much time because we've got a pretty big presentation coming up. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chief Sloan.
Hi, everybody. I'm Chief Sloan with Muncie Police, and like you said, we are going to move along with this pretty quick. So recently, not just in Muncie, but all over the nation, we've had problems with an increase in crime, right? Particularly gun crimes, whether that's homicides or drive-by shootings or people getting shot or whatever's going on. Particularly violent crimes is what we're focusing on now. So we've had several conversations with community members and neighborhood associations. Councilperson Overbay, you were even there for one of them where we had an extensive conversation about what some of these neighborhoods wanted. And, you know, I think you can probably assume they want increased patrol, they want more security, they want an increased presence of law enforcement, and they brought up the fact that they wanted surveillance. So we started to explore that, and what we found was that the overwhelming majority of the agencies that we were talking to and that we contacted were using a company called Flock, which is an LPR, license plate reading company. So What we know is that 70% or more of crime is committed by people who are utilizing vehicles during these crimes. Whether they're getting to the crime or leaving the crime, they're using a vehicle. And Flock for us, when we started to look at it, is really a force multiplier for us. It's kind of two-pronged. It's a deterrent when people know we have this, and it also identifies potential suspect vehicles and suspects. So I talked to one of the detectives from a different agency, and he said he's doing 7 times the work of a normal detective. So 7 times the work that a normal detective would do, he's doing by using Flock. Things we like about it, like I said, I'm going to skip around here. We're trying to move along. The Flock program gives us objective and unbiased evidence in these cases, okay? And just to dispel some rumors here, we're not going to use this for traffic enforcement. If you run the traffic light at Tillotson and McGalliard accidentally, you're not going to get a ticket from us in the mail in 3 weeks or from Flock or anything like that. This will not be used for moving violations. We're going to make sure that we've got strict guidelines in place for how this is used and how this technology moves forward and how we use it. It's going to be for official purposes only, no personal use. And every case, every search that is run is going to be tracked, and it is going to be cataloged, and it will be stored indefinitely. So what are we going to do to, what are some of the cases we're going to look at to use this technology? Increased gun violence, we already talked about, homicides, shootings, things like that, drug crimes, right? Stolen vehicles, Amber Alerts, child crimes, crimes against children. Construction theft is a big deal going on right now. Converter thefts, how many times have you heard about that? Hit and runs, right? That would be the only traffic application here because, I mean, like I said, it's not going to be used for traffic enforcement other than a hit and run where there's a large amount of property damage or somebody's hurt. Burglaries, basically any crime that you can think of that would involve a vehicle some way, somehow, this could be used to further. One of the big things that was important for us is the number of agencies in Indiana that are already using this. That tells me that it's vetted out, that these agencies are seeing great results with this company, and that's why we chose them. Another one was the privacy. So Flock doesn't sell any of the information that they collect, okay? And we don't transmit that anywhere else other than other law enforcement agencies. So it's only for law enforcement purposes. Their data and security protocols, they're totally encrypted on both ends. They don't have any problems as far as we can tell with that. And their transparency features. So Flock is currently building us a transparency portal where everybody's going to be able to go to find out the specifics about how Muncie uses this. So what is Flock, right? What's detected? What's not detected? What's the acceptable policy use? What is going to be our policy? That's going to be out there for everybody to see. The prohibited uses, so no harassment, intimidation, personal use, or any use based solely on race, religion, sex, etc. The access policy, the valid reasons for what we're using this process for. The hot list policy, and she's got a presentation here that she'll give you here in a minute, but the hot list, Flock detects a plate in town that might be stolen or a car that's stolen. We're not just going to take the system's word for that. We're going to put eyes on this to make sure that what the system's telling us is verified through human interaction. The data retention, how long the company holds on to this information. And that's a hard delete at 30 days. They'll go over that with you. The number of cameras that we've got and the vehicles that are detected in the last 30 days and how many of them there were. So an example of this might be, we have a lot of situations where a crime occurs and we know where the crime occurred. We know the date and time the crime occurred. And we may even have a witness that says, okay, I saw a white minivan. I think it was a Honda. I'm pretty sure it had tinted windows, and it was right there when the gunshots were going off. Oh, and I think it's got a bumper sticker too. Now we can go back into the system and put all those data points in there and actually narrow down our suspect pool in our field, hopefully to one vehicle. So cases this could have been useful in, right? Drive-by shootings in town. We've seen that nationally, we've seen it locally. That's something we need to address. I want to get that stopped. Now we're going to have that window to be able to go back 30 days and see where, if this vehicle has been in the area from, the witness has described this to us, and now we can go searching for it. The recent county homicide where they had a suspect vehicle that was a white Ford Explorer with particular state plates on it. That should be an easy day for the flock program. We should be able to find that pretty quick had this vehicle passed one of these cameras. Our recent homicides in town. So we know from investigation that during some of these cases, they were moving around in town with vehicles and even out of town. That would be beneficial information for the investigation for us. So we're developing policy and things now to make sure we've got rails in place and safeguards to make sure this is used responsibly. We want to be transparent about this. We want to make sure everybody understands that. But I know, Laura Ann, you've got a presentation that you'd like to put on. I don't want to take any more time, so if you can kick that off for us.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Chief Sloan, for asking us to join you here today and share a little bit more information about the flock safety system. I just want to make sure, are we good on the screen? Okay. That's completely fine. So I think I just want to start off by letting you all know a little bit about flock safety. We were started 5 years ago because we saw the power of license plate data to help solve crime, exactly like what the chief just described. But other companies weren't prioritizing privacy or transparency, these values that we held. And so our founders created Flock to do that, to prioritize those things and still provide law enforcement with the data that they need. So I'll walk through a little bit about how the technology works. When you get Flock in the system, we're not doing a demonstration here today, but your police officers will have an image of the back of a car. It's just an image. It's not live video. It's just a single picture. And then they can detect from that picture what color the car is, what the make and model is, exactly like Chief Sloan described. We call that additional evidence from the vehicle a vehicle fingerprint, right? Because sometimes there are other features about a car beyond a license plate that are helpful for your police to solve crimes. That information is indiscriminate evidence, right? It's going to be in fixed locations around town. So it'll be in the entry and exit points of Muncie. And that information will provide police the objective data they need for crimes when people are leaving the city or entering Muncie. Another important thing that I want to make sure everybody knows in the room about flock safety, we do not detect people. We are not facial recognition. This is not a biometric system, right? We are not looking at any of that type of information. It's just license plate plus vehicle information for your police officers. So if you think about what this tech is, right, what it is going to provide your police department, objective evidence, alerts when there are stolen or wanted vehicles entering Muncie, and it'll adhere to any state law required, right? We've got a full team of people to make sure that that's happening. What this tech isn't is personally identifiable information, and like your chief said, not traffic enforcement. So we've got all sorts of different ways that we have implemented policies as a company to help protect privacy, to help promote their police department's efficient use of the technology. And I'm happy to answer questions about those that come up and join your chief in that. But I think it's important to understand that this system works in a couple of different ways, right? It's proactive in that it will provide your police department with alerts as vehicles are entering the city that are stolen. Maybe there's a warrant from Indianapolis, or we've seen cross-state fugitive investigations be solved with this data. So those proactive alerts will help Muncie police solve crime. And then it's investigative. So the investigative portion is the data that will be collected from the license plate reads in Muncie, and your police, like Chief described, will be able to use it to solve hit and runs, to solve murders within a specific period of time. We've also seen that these devices are really helpful as a deterrent. And I've got some case studies to show you guys at the end where we saw a significant drop in crime. So a couple other things I want to highlight about data security. We use the highest level of security at Flock. We take that very seriously. We are working with the AWS government cloud, which is the same level of security that our intelligence community uses. And we have an end-to-end encryption. So that means when the camera takes a picture, when it sends the picture into the cloud, and when it stores it, it's encrypted at each level. And so we think that adds an additional level of security for the images that are taken in Muncie. I think the most important thing to know is that we actually don't own your data. We put it in our partnership and put it in our contract that you in Muncie will own your data. And we think that's really important because we don't want to sell or share your data with anyone. It's your communities, your police department gets to make that decision. And they will decide who they will and will not share with. And so if there's input about that, I'm sure your chief will be able to incorporate that into his policy that he's developing, and we'll be happy to hear about who you guys think you should and should not share with tonight. I think another piece that I want to highlight is that we've built into our system a search reason. And so your chief mentioned this, but I want to give you a little bit of an idea about how this will work. So anytime an officer uses our system for an investigative search, they have to type in a reason. Can be a case number, it can be a specific incident that's an ongoing active investigation, but there has to be that investigative reason. And we then provide that investigative reason in a report to your chief. So proactively, your chief will know exactly who in the department is using the system, how they're using it, why they're using it, what they're searching. And we think that adds an additional level of support to protect the community's civil liberties, even beyond the audit procedures that he's already putting in place. So I think I just want to end with a couple of stories of examples where this technology has really worked effectively. And I think the one that sticks out to me the most is actually from several years ago from Chamblee, Georgia. Chamblee was one of our first customers, and they had an Amber Alert, stranger on stranger abduction. And most folks who aren't in law enforcement don't know this. I didn't know this, but stranger on stranger abductions are really hard to solve. And you never think that it's going to happen to your community until it does. And it's really hard to find data to actually catch the people who have taken the child and return that individual back to their family. So this situation, Chamblee Police Department, at 12:30, they issued the Amber Alert, right? So very immediately, this 1-year-old, they knew, everybody in Georgia, everybody in the country knew that it was missing. They were able to conduct a search with Flock, locate the suspect vehicle, and stop the vehicle and make an arrest within 6 hours. So that's really unheard of in law enforcement, but because they had the license plate data, they were able to find this child several counties away. We've also seen a lot of success other parts of the country. Happy to share specific information. Rantoul, Illinois, if you guys are on Facebook right now and want to just Google them, they have had a lot of success using the Flock safety system in addressing their increased gun violence in their community. An example of a cross-state, cross-jurisdictional information sharing that was really effective. We helped solve a bank robbery that happened out of Tampa, and the individual, the police knew that he had some connection to Michigan, and so they ended up contacting their colleagues in Michigan, and they've actually found his license plate in Michigan, and were able to solve a bank robbery using this data. I think we might have one of in my presentation that I'm going through that you guys can't see, one of the news stations here is actually referenced. But it looks like, I think we'll open to questions in just a second. But I want to end with an example case study of how this technology is used to actually deter crime and reduce crime over time. So Gwinnett County is one of our long-term customers, and they've seen a substantial drop in crime over time. They implemented our technology in 2020, and by 2021, they had seen over a 40% decrease in homicide. They had seen almost a 40% decrease in residential burglary and in commercial burglary. And so we're seeing that this technology really is helping police not only solve current crime, but reduce crime statistics in their community. And I'm happy to help the chief answer any additional questions.
All right. Thank you very much for getting us through that presentation and leaving some time for questions. I have received some both online and in person. If you have questions on a note card, perhaps our other Flock friends in the back can help get those up to me. But at this point, I'm seeing two basic categories of questions. So I'm going to try to group questions together. If you feel that your question was not asked correctly, please let me know so I can represent your point of view better. But the first, we're going to talk about funding. So what is the cost of the system, the source of funding? Did this go before the City Council or Board of Works? Did we put out requests for proposals or quotes, or was there a bidding process? If we could walk through the financials, we're getting some questions about that.
So the problem with the bidding process in this situation is this is really proprietary programming. So anybody can put cameras up, right? But the nice thing about this is Flock's software that links us with other policing agencies, okay? So if we have somebody from, I don't know, Marion County that comes up here and commits a crime, or vice versa, we're able to contact that other agency and hopefully solve this crime. So that was a big selling point for us, and nobody else is really doing that, especially around here with all the other agencies that are already in Flock and utilizing this to success. It just makes sense for us to go with Flock. There's really nobody else to go with as far as that. You want to touch on the financials? Go ahead.
Did you want to mention the pilot too, Chief?
So, I'm sorry, say it again.
Pilot, the 60-day PPI.
Yeah. Well, why don't you? You're probably better at that.
Yeah, and then I'll leave it to you for funding to close it out. Yes, so we're actually starting in Muncie. This is the announcement tonight of a 60-day pilot. So this program, your chief and the mayor want to make sure it works in Muncie, right? And we are totally on board with that. And so we're starting this 60-day pilot so you can verify that this is what's best for your community before there will be any payment made.
And as far as the funding, it's being paid for out of the mayor's edit funds.
Okay. Do you have something else?
Any other follow-up questions from people in the room? We'll continue on. Another group of questions revolves around privacy. So you've talked a little bit about how the system protects privacy of citizens. I've had a couple questions. How do we know that that data is erased? Who else can access reports? Is any of this information subject to the Freedom of Information Act? Can people request to see those report histories? Things like that.
Yes, so at Flock Safety, like I said, we do not own your data. You own your data, so you are the ones who can access, sell, and share it. We're basically just the conduit by which you store your data in the cloud. So if you think of us just as like an intermediary, but our system, the way we store data, it is only for 30 days, unless it's for in the middle of an active investigation. So if your chief and his detectives are doing an active investigation on a homicide, they'll download the data onto their system. And you actually can't bulk download data from our system. So that's an additional protection too. So I think that's the first piece of the question. As far as the FOIA or if you can request those reports, your chief already described the transparency portal, and everyone that's online, please go to find a community that's already using Flock Safety, and they most likely have a transparency portal that you can look at and see what an example would be. But your chief will have that up with all the information about how the system's being used, what kind of outcomes they're seeing. So all of that will be accessible to your community immediately when the cameras are up and functioning. And lastly, on FOIA, I'll let you answer that.
Well, it would be highly specific as far as FOIA is concerned, but we are going to be very accountable and transparent during all of this. So this is going to be for law enforcement purposes only. That's it, and that's all. So I don't know how else to say that, really. It's just law enforcement purposes, and that's it.
And if I understand this correctly, and again, we've had several presentations on this, and it's finally ready to bring out, but the data that would be downloaded, we don't download every single video over the last 30 days. It would be when we put in a search for a white van with a bumper sticker that's a Honda, that's the only thing it's searching for. And so it's very specific in what can be kept for an investigation. So that's the type of information that'll come out. And I think that's important. And the other thing that's important, I mean, we looked at these communities. Chief talked to several of the communities that are going through this. When you see homicides down 41% in 1 year, when you see aggravated assaults down 38% in 1 year, when you see robberies down 19% in 1 year, when you can see departments have detectives do 7 times as much investigation work as they were able to do before, that's how you protect the citizens. And that's the goal. The goal is how do we protect, how do we make it safer for our citizens? And that's what the objective is. And we've seen so much success with that. And that's just one county's results. But if we saw numerous time and time again, and positive comments, and then, but we're still doing this on a pilot program. So we're not going to throw all kinds of funds at this until we know that this is effective for us and for our citizens. But I just wanted to make those comments.
So a couple hypothetical questions. Let's say if somebody wanted to make up some false reason for looking up something. Could somebody just make up a crime and say, yeah, there's suspicion of domestic battery, I need to look at this specific car? Another question, you touched on the transparency portal and the policies. Those are all going to be public before the cameras go into effect, is that correct? What about future administrations? Is there any way that we can build in safety precautions in case a future administration decides that they want to abuse the framework that's already in place?
Yeah, so I'll just highlight one thing about the report before I send it over to the chief. The investigative searches that are outlined, your chief can add in all sorts of requirements for that if needed. And that actually gives him a proactive way to make sure the system is not being misused, right? So there's always the threat that a system will be misused. And the thing that we need to put in place is controls to make sure that if it is misused, we know and we can act, right? And so your chief will get that information proactively and be able to act. We don't expect that it will be misused, but if it is, your chief will have a policy in place to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah. Yeah, no, look, yeah. So could somebody make up, a reason to get in there? Yeah, but you're going to have a lot of other things. You're going to have a CR number and an actual case associated with that search. So it's not just, you can't just jump on the system and do whatever you want. It has to be linked to something. So, yeah, we're going to have safeguards in place to make sure that nobody's using this to look up an old girlfriend or anything like that. I'm not going to tolerate any of that.
And just to give you an example, I'm going to read these times. So when she went through this, she said, in less than 6 hours, and that's true to the end result. But the Amber Alert was issued at 12:33 p.m. At 1:01 p.m., it took that long. It took till 1:01 p.m. for them to get that into the system. That's because, as you're saying, there have to be other investigations. It's got to be connected to something else. So it's not like this on a phone call, we're going to put this in the system. That's not how it works. So it took 30 minutes roughly to get it into the system, 28 minutes. At 2:30, that vehicle plate started showing up. And then by 5:03, that's when there was a felony stop and an arrest. And then by 6 p.m., the baby was back in its parents' arms. So there are steps that have to go with this, but that instant action that this program will allow our police officers and others in Indiana that will be tied to us, that's what's going to allow that baby to be back in that parent's arms in less than 6 hours. That's why this is important. But again, we're doing this as a pilot. We're not saying this works. We hope and pray this works. But we're doing this as a pilot to begin with, and then we will make it permanent.
And the contract's for 2 years at a time. So.
Okay.
Yeah, so the contract is also for 2 years at a time, as is typical with most vendors, right? Your community will be able to reevaluate during the term of the contract.
I have another question about funding. Someone is asking if Muncie Code requires projects over 20,000 to be sent out for bid, or at least have a request for quotes sent out. Is that accurate?
It is on purchases. So on purchases, that's definitely accurate. For personal services or like, for example, engineering, that's not necessarily the case. But for purchases of equipment, for purchases of vehicles, that's definitely the case. So personal services are a little different. They fall under a different statute.
Right, it's kind of, Deputy Chief Deegan can speak to this as well. There's lots of manufacturers that make radios, right, for police and fire. But we want the best. That's why we go with what we've got, and that's why we've had to wait for these radios, right? But we want a particular system because we have seen that it works, and all these other agencies have vetted it out. It makes sense that we would go with what's already been vetted. We know it works. Well, yeah,
Yeah, several agencies that we've talked to have all recommended Flock, and also the Fusion Center, when they did training for us, some of their employees strongly suggested that it was something that we check into. And I can just say, as the deputy chief over the detective division, I know this is going to be such a huge asset for my detectives. There's been so many cases recently that I just said if we would have Flock, we would be using this right now. It would be such an asset for us. And I can kind of compare it to portable radios as far as the ability that it gives us to communicate quickly to other officers. This is going to cut down on so much time. Deputy Chief Deegan and I had worked on a silver alert probably a year ago. It was an all-night thing trying to locate a child. It wasn't an Amber Alert level situation, but if we would have had the capability of Flock at that time, it would have narrowed the time frame on locating that child to probably within an hour or two, whereas it took probably 12 hours at that time. So many situations lately, like I said, we have mentioned how if we could have Flock, how much it would assist in our investigations. And not only is it a quick notification of the location possibly of the vehicle, but it's going to help us find more evidence. It's not going to give the person as long of an opportunity to possibly discard some evidence. So if we find that car quickly that's connected to a crime, then we're also going to find the suspect and the evidence that is in the car.
So on the financial piece, I just want to make this clear. This costs us nothing for this 60-day period. So there is no expense at this time. I, as the mayor, am willing, for the protection of the citizens, to pay for this if the results are what we want. So I just want to make that clear. This is zero cost for these 60 days.
Yeah, sure. And like Deputy Chief Criswell was just saying, this goes to being a force multiplier. I mean, typically what we do is we'll issue a BOL. This is what our officers should be looking for. Now we can go back and look for this and find out what the cameras have captured when they're not running around the city doing all kinds of other things and other calls like policemen are. They're just standing in one place taking in data. Now we can research all that and go back to it as a resource.
And then we had some questions about some of the percentages that were used in the presentation. So I believe you mentioned one county experienced a 40% reduction. Someone is wondering, are we really sure that that is all attributable to Flock, or are there other factors there? And then I believe there was a 70% number as well. If you could go over those again, I think that'd be helpful.
Yeah, definitely. So all of our case studies are case studies, right? So this is what communities have experienced after implementing Flock. And we've got several that we can share, and we'll provide them to your police department so that they can get it out publicly with those exact numbers. So we also are actually in the process of participating in a study with the National Policing Institute so that we can have data on how effective ALPR technology is, how effective our ALPR technology is, because we do things a little bit differently than some of the legacy providers. And that should be out within the next couple of years because they're in the process of collecting that data now. And we believe that it's going to be just the same as those 40% numbers, 70% numbers that we cited, but I want to make sure to give the actual specific cases in paper. The one that I mentioned, though, from Gwinnett County, it was about a 40%. I think it was exactly 38% reduction in commercial burglary, and 37% reduction in commercial burglary, and 38% reduction in aggravated battery. So I just wanted to highlight those two numbers since they were asked.
Thank you for clarifying. So for this as a pilot program, is this a one-time cost? Is there a yearly contract, or I think you mentioned a 2-year contract early? What would be the ongoing cost of this program?
Yes, so we our technology, one of the advantages is that it's very affordable compared to other technology vendors in this space. So we actually are a flat rate of $2,500 per LPR device per year. We charge a small installation fee that covers permitting and all of the technicians that we bring out to actually install the cameras. But the cost is $2,500 per device per year.
Excellent. Comments are coming in quickly, so I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. And if I do miss anything, I will do my best to go back afterwards and make sure that we get to all of those. Let's see. We do have a question. Is there currently a lawsuit against the city because of misuse of city police and privacy violations?
I don't know. Not to my knowledge. Yeah.
That was easy. I have a couple parks questions. I think I'll circle back to those on the comments afterwards, just to make sure that we kind of wrap up on Flock, because it seems like this is what is most pressing on people's minds. I will go through the comments again and see if I haven't touched on anything. Yes. So what are the chances that someone could incorrectly enter a license plate number and pull over the wrong person? Does that happen frequently? Are there safeguards to make sure that the wrong Honda CRV doesn't get identified?
Yeah, so just to clarify on how the system works, so we're actually taking pictures of the vehicles that are already passing, right? So your officers will enter the plates and then have to do additional investigative work to verify whether or not that plate was involved. If you think about it in terms of all of the data that's collected with an investigation, right? Let's say there was a hit and run in a parking lot and the eyewitness said that they saw a white Honda Civic leave the parking lot, but that's all that they got, right? This technology will provide a picture to help the police know, oh, maybe they had custom rims. Maybe they had a bumper sticker on the back. Maybe they had a dent in the car. And so the police will be able to then take the pictures of all of the vehicles leaving the lot and search for those specific cars while they're out on their in their investigative work. Is it possible that the wrong plate could get entered? Yes, but because it's only one piece of the investigation, your officers would catch it in the rest of their work. Is there anything else you want to add, Chief Sloan?
Yeah, human error is always a factor, but like she was saying, the only thing the camera cares about is the license plate, the type of car, where it is, and the specifics of the car, really. I mean, that's it. There is human error always on the side when there's input, but that's not what we're talking about here. I mean, and like she said, anything like that would be caught in the investigation.
Earlier, I believe you mentioned that the cameras will primarily be placed at entrances and exits to the city. If somebody wanted a camera in their neighborhood, could they request that?
Yeah, so I think this is a great way to close up about partnerships. So Flock Safety actually believes that it takes all of us working together to eliminate crime. That means your mayor, elected officials, your police department, and also businesses and neighborhoods. And so if you are a neighborhood association, if you're a business that's interested in helping your police department solve crime in your community and eliminate it in your community, we can absolutely work with you to help join this partnership and bring more devices into Muncie.
All right. Well, it is 7 o'clock. Hopefully we have addressed at least the main themes that you are wondering about. If there are other specific questions, I will do my best to make sure that I can find specific answers for you. But we're going to go ahead and wrap up here because that is our time for this evening. Thank you to the Innovation Connector for hosting us. Ted's been great. He's been walking around getting people water. It's been awesome. So thank you everyone who is able to tune in online and engage in this discussion. This is important for us. Thank you to everyone who came in person. And if you have other questions, please direct them to your communications department.